Ole, we're live as the United States is literally in chaos. How are things going over there in Spain? I haven't heard too much about riots in Spain.
No riots, but new rules. And we're going into phase 2 now, and it's absolutely hilarious. They come out with, fines from 750 up to $3,000 if you build sandcastles on the beach.
What?
If you have more than two parasols, per family. If you pee in the water, if you have a rusty beach chair. I mean, it's like it just goes on and on. I really hope that this is going to make people just think this is just bizarre.
Wow.
So anyway,
Well, we're
interesting
joined,
times.
as usual, by Cody Snodgres. Cody, how are you today?
We're doing good. We're here in Colorado, and we're still under what they're calling stay safer at home. It's a more lax thing than the lockdowns, but we still have to wear the mask outside and everything. And I talked to a number of people from Fort Carson military base this morning about the riots that would happen in Colorado Springs the last few nights, and also up in Denver, Colorado. They had big, pretty good ones up there. There was 2 state police cars destroyed, 2 officers hurt, some civilians injured. They used what they call chemical irritants, which is mild tear gas on them, and they used tear gas in Colorado Springs and then also up in Denver. So there's a lot of stuff going on around here.
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing. I mean, cities basically all across the United States have been experiencing urban warfare. Certainly within my lifetime, it's unprecedented, but it's all ostensibly brought about by the police murder of George Floyd. There are a number of questions about this murder. Ole, I don't know what kind of information you're getting about it in Europe, but there was some Masonic messaging kind of surrounding this Derek Chauvin, who is the officer that killed George Floyd. It certainly seems strange that he would do it with a smile on his face in full view of a video camera. And I mean, in the case of Rodney King, which was another very prominent police killing, well, Rodney King wasn't killed, but he was beaten. The cops didn't know they were being videotaped, and I'm not saying that to say that it makes it better or less bad. It's just when somebody knows that they're being videotaped to proceed with a criminal act, it seems bizarre.
It sure does, and it just gets more and more bizarre the more you look into it. I've already dug really deep into this one, and I tell you, it is one big operation. It is not what we're being told. It is divide and conquer on a very high level, and where they're trying to create absolute mayhem that will then justify martial law. That is what they're after.
Right.
And so we need to go back to the exact roots of this alleged event and see what actually happened, see who the people were that were involved in this whole thing, how it was carried out, and so on. And I guarantee you in this program, I'm going to reveal a totally different picture. And that is also where you have to look into who started, who knocked out the first windows, who started the first fires, who are there provocateurs? Who are the people demonstrating? Are they actually from this area? Now we heard that a truck drove into the crowd. It's on the exact same bridge that was, it just collapsed on August 1st, 2007 in a very, very bizarre event. That's the exact same bridge. And I tell you, this whole one, it smells so far as a false flag. I'll be happy to go into great detail later if you want.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, Ole, everybody knows that you are one of the best known researchers into these type of false flag events, and you are constantly updating your website, lightonconspiracies.com. You've been following this stuff literally for decades, and you understand the language better than almost anyone. So it's going to be very interesting to dig into some of this stuff. People who watch us regularly they know that we are experiencing so many disruptions. There's been a lot of talk this week, or last week, I should say, with President Trump's executive order that's intended to deal with some of this censorship and online disruption that's been happening. But to prevent our videos from getting removed from the internet, we've been in a regular practice of doing a sponsor exclusive show every Monday on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We're going to get into all of those details at 11:30 a.m. when we start that. I wanted to get some insight from Cody, if we could. I mean, we're seeing urban warfare here, aren't we, Cody?
Well, yeah, and Ole's absolutely right. We did just some shows here in the States right when all this broke off, and producers told me about stuff, and I was out at my mountain cabin. I had no idea what was going on. I have no internet, no TV, no nothing out there. And they told me about it, and I said it from a psychological operations viewpoint and a viewpoint of trying to incite stuff. I told them this looks like a New World Order op based on the limited intelligence I have. But the fact that it started in all the cities at once, basically, and the pattern is all the same. It's the problem, reaction, solution pattern that Ole has talked about all around the world over and over. And we're seeing the same patterns of the false flag operations where they bring people in, they have regular protesters doing regular protesting, and then rabble-rousers come in, agent provocateurs, staged and planned. Somebody funded them. This has been set up ahead of time, and then, of course, they use the media control on the other end of it, just like they did the Christchurch shooting or the Sandy Hook or Parkland shooting or Sheffield bombing, Bali bombing. It's all the same. It's the same pattern. So I can't wait to hear what Ole's going to say. I have some intel here from some military sources we can get to later, but this immediately looked to me like it was organized probably by George Soros and his underlings. They're funded, they're organized. These people don't just do this stuff randomly all across the country.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen indicators that, evidence that points to that. People saw, I went on a walk across the Brooklyn Bridge to Brooklyn and back into Manhattan, and when I was down in Soho, I just happened to notice what looked like an unusual number of people hanging out on bicycles on a corner on Houston Street. And one of them became very agitated, approached me, walked almost a block right up to me, asking if I was video recording them for the police, which at the time didn't mean much to me, but it certainly seems like a strong indication that they were doing something that they didn't want the police to know about. And we've now seen subsequent videos over the weekend where we see these guys handing out cash to people on bikes. Causes me to wonder if there's not some mechanism around cities where these bike runners are coordinating certain things. I mean, you can move around Manhattan quite quickly on a bicycle, particularly now that there's no traffic, you don't need to adhere to lights. There's a lot of little signs like this that there are organized, coordinated operatives around the city.
Yeah, I did some research this morning, and there's about 20 or so cities. I have them all listed here with the mayors of each city and their political affiliation. And what I found, Jason, was that out of about 22 of them, there were 2 Republican mayors and 20 Democratic mayors of the cities. And we've also been hearing reports that the mayors have told the police and the fire department guys to stand down and let some of the buildings burn and let some of the lootings go on as if they wanted to make the event worse than what it was. But this is a very lopsided, bipartisan riot thing in our country. I mean, 20 Democrats and 2 Republicans. It seems like something is going on beneath the surface, and I'd love to hear what Ole's got to say.
Well. If you look at the timing of this whole thing, this is exactly when they're starting to loosen the grip from the corona, where
Right.
people have been locked in, where they've been under a lot of pressure. Finally, they're being let out. And what is meeting them? Boom. this whole thing happens. So how do you create, if you want to create tension, if you want to push for martial law, if you want to, what better way than the wet dream of the new world order to create like a civil war? This has been their dream for a long time. And so how do you do it? You have to do something that will make people react. Otherwise, you can't get them to get angry. So what better way than to create some very racist, horrible event where you have multiple things working at the same time. You got alleged police brutality or murder. You have the racist. We have a black and a white man. We also have the white police officer is married to I think she's from Thailand. She's, by the way, Miss Minnesota 2018. And also we got like a Chinese Asian man, at least Asian looking man, one of the police officers that is standing next to him being filmed. He's the guy that is closest to the photographer. So you got the different races. You got
He's the brother-in-law. Tao.
That's exactly it, because he's the brother of this beauty queen, this former beauty queen. And then I tell you, when I saw this the first time, I thought, oh my God, I really bought into it because it looks really brutal. It looks like he's actually killing him by keeping his knee on his neck. But I've spoken to an expert in martial law, no, not martial law, martial arts, and he said that what he's doing is by no means hurting him hardly, because
Really?
he's putting the weight on his right leg, not his left knee, where that should be the one pushing down. And also he said he can easily withstand something like that, not a problem at all. Even though it looks really brutal. It looks really brutal. I totally agree with that. But then we start looking at the different details. And for instance, you got like the badges of the police officer are not the same. It's
Right.
not the same shape of badge, which is very unusual since they are apparently in the same unit. Then you got the police car has no number on it. It just says there's no license plate number on it. It just says police, like on a toy car.
But you know what? I looked into that detail, Ole, and Minneapolis police cars are like that. I found other Minneapolis police cars that just say police on the license plate.
In that case, I'm happy that you tell me, because I found that very odd. Why is that? I don't get it.
I don't get it either, but that's how they do it in that
Could
city.
that be a way of not
Here.
just sort of...
We've got other images of other Minneapolis police cars that do just say police. I did find that strange.
Well, in that case, perfect. It's excellent. That gives us a new question mark. I don't understand why they would do that, because somebody like an officer of the law should be able to be held responsible for his actions. And
I think it's that the car has a number. So all the police cars have the same registration with the DMV, I guess, but then the squad car has a number. I think the difference in badges is a valid question. Chauvin has like a metal badge and Tao has no badge. I mean, I'd like to know if this is another department thing. Maybe this guy's in charge and these lower guys don't have those fancy badges. I don't know.
No. He has a badge as well. His brother-in-law has a badge as well, but it's a different shape than Chauvin. Then this man, George Floyd, I have not been able to find him. Neither have other researchers that I've been in contact with. There are 3 different people with the name George Floyd in the state, and one is 105, one is 95, and one is 35, and he's just not registered there.
There's no address for him in Minneapolis. All the online databases point to George Floyd in Houston, where he lived previously. But I agree with you. There's no registered address for him in Minneapolis, which is curious.
Then also they step forward, or people stepping forward, saying that the police and the victim have been working together for some 10 years at the same club where they've been part of security. So that's very odd as well, that they didn't even act like they knew each other, you know. And then the whole thing why he was being arrested and first put down on the pavement. People are talking about that the cars are different on different photos, but that's because he's being stopped and pulled out of his car and put down on the pavement, and a Minneapolis Park police car arrives, but then they take him and they bring him across the road to another police car, which is like 100 yards from there, where this whole thing happens. Then you have also the name, sometimes like with false flag operations, they love to have names that somehow affects you subconsciously. Like there was one alleged relative or friend to one of the victims at the Stockholm truck attack, an English guy, and his name was James Hunt, which is one of the Formula One former stars. And here we have George Floyd, and when you look at him, he looks a little bit like a boxer type thing. So I have no idea, but it's just like when you think of Floyd Patterson and George Foreman, it's just like, is that part of the psyop to get into that whole thing? You got the names, you got the violence. You also have, when you put it in, George Foreman in gematria, it's 119. Sorry?
George Floyd, you mean?
George Floyd, yes, sorry. So it's 119, which is 911 turned around, 9/11. And it happened at East 33rd Street. So you got 33 there again. I mean,
38th Street. Wait a minute. I want to make sure we're not prepared. There's a lot of confusion that's going out. So it was 38th Street where this Cup Foods is. I have gotten photographs from people showing 33rd Street, but that's not where the murder took place, the alleged murder took place. The other thing that I'm hearing this morning, Ole,
it is an intersection. It's an intersection, Jason, between the two streets.
38th, not 38th and 33rd. This was a mistake. The murder did not take place on 33rd Street. We'll look at the map when we get over to the sponsor exclusive show. Because I want to make sure we're putting
I got a question. How do we know the guy's really dead? I mean, all I saw on the news and the internet stuff is that the police officer killed the guy and he stopped breathing. But has anyone seen any real autopsy reports or any proof of all or what? I haven't heard anything about it.
No. There's a lot of questions that remain to be answered, and we'll be getting into that in just about 10 minutes on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I just wanted to point this out because this morning I've been getting a lot of emails from people that they're saying that George Floyd had a twin brother. I have not seen any evidence of that. I believe this is a mistake that has come out of the irresponsible reporting of places like the Washington Post, where they're referring to former NBA star Steven Jackson, who considers himself the twin to George Floyd, not because they're related, but because they're such close friends, according to Jackson. I do not believe there is a biological identical twin brother of George Floyd. I have not seen any evidence of that. It's just this NBA player who's saying he feels like he's lost a twin brother. So as far as how do we know if he's dead, I haven't seen an autopsy, but I mean, how could that be acting? The guy is choking out in the street, begging for his life. He seems pretty dead.
No, he seems unconscious. And I'm not saying he's not dead. I'm saying this is not what we're being told, that it was an act of brutality. It was I can guarantee you on my experience, in my way of seeing it at least, that this was a staged event. I'm not saying he's not dead. Possibly they did kill him there, but it was the reason for this whole thing was to create chaos.
Oh, absolutely.
That is the thing.
Yeah. I mean, my best hypothesis right now is that Derek Chauvin killed him deliberately to create this event. Now, the thing that's so important to me is that if these two guys knew each other, and there's been a lot of confusion in that regard as well, because I saw an interview on a local Minneapolis news station where the reporter actually went to the home of the former owner of this Nuevo, whatever it is, restaurant where they worked. And what she said specifically that I heard was that Chauvin had worked at the restaurant for 17 years and that both Chauvin and Floyd worked as security guards, that they worked overlapping shifts, and that Floyd had worked there as recently as a year ago. I did not hear that they had worked together for 10 years, and the owner of the place did not specifically say that they knew each other as far as she was aware. They worked at the same club. That makes it seem pretty likely that they would know each other, particularly if they're both security guards. Particularly, let's face it, George Floyd, he's over 6 feet tall. He's a gigantic man standing there. How could you not know that guy if you're working at the club and he's on the security force? So it seems to me, Ole, like perhaps Chauvin, somehow convinced Floyd, hey, we need to stage an arrest and you're going to be involved. And then he killed him. But if they knew each other, and here's the other wrinkle, George Floyd is in pornographic movies. I've seen them online. It is illegal to shoot pornographic movies in Minneapolis. So the question is, if this guy's involved in illegal activity, he's been arrested before for robbery, he's working with this police officer who, of course, is involved in illegal activity. He just killed a guy in the street. And the question becomes, what other illegal activity are these potential associates involved in? And did Derek Chauvin kill George Floyd for some specific motive other than a racially motivated police killing? We're going to get into all of it. We've got just a few minutes now. 5 minutes will be on our sponsor exclusive segment on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'm looking forward to getting both of you guys' insights over there. We'll see you soon.